Hi friends, this has been a really big week for Scalar fans like me. Scalar 3 was released yesterday and it's available for download. Hey, I'm so excited about this, I put my hat on forward. I've been using Scalar 2 for about 3 years. I have it both on my Mac and on my iPad. And I think this product is great. In fact, it's the music theory and chord tool that should have been included in every DAW, but isn't. And given its relatively low price, this is a product you gotta have. So upgrading to Scalar 3 was a no-brainer for most people, including me. Now there's gonna be lots of videos out there on YouTube about Scalar 3. The best ones, in my opinion, are by David Carbone, the creative director behind Scalar. I've got links to the 3 best videos in the description. There's an in-depth overview and there's part 1 and part 2 of getting started if you're new to Scalar. And while you're watching this video, if you're thinking about either upgrading to Scalar 3 or buying Scalar 3 for the first time, there are affiliate links in the description as well, and it's currently available with a discount. I really don't want to replicate or duplicate the basics of how Scalar works because there's so many videos out there that are going to do that. I'm going to focus on the things that make this product valuable in my particular workflow. I'm going to give you my personal opinion on the best of the new features in version 3. The first thing you'll notice with Scalar 3 is the change to the UI. Here's Scalar 2 on the left, and here's Scalar 3 on the right. It's more than just a cosmetic change. The entire application has been redesigned for optimal workflow, taking advantage of the features and developments that were made in Scalar 2. You've now got a browse page, a create page, and an arrange page, which more or less follow the workflow of using Scalar. Pick your scales, pick your progressions, add the harmonics, add or modify variations to those scales, and then ultimately build your MIDI in the arrange page, which can be multi-track with its own MIDI editor, full-fledged capabilities that are almost DAW-like. Scalar 3 still retains a lot of the familiar elements of Scalar 2. There's an A, a B, and a C section where you can select a chord progression. Now they've organized it a bit differently. You've got common chord progressions and you've got uncommon chord progressions. You've still got genres, of which there are just many genres to pick from. And you still have artists. In total, there's probably more than 1,000 chord sets that you can choose. And we can preview the chords in that set just by clicking on the play button. As normal, you can drag the chords in section A or B down to your main track. And you can bind A, B, or C to your MIDI controller keyboard so that you can execute those chords with just the playing of one key. The instruments have expanded. There are internal sounds that are organized into these categories. You also have instruments that would have been scanned from your virtual instruments and plugins in your environment. You can see I have a lot. So if I want to use a particular instrument, let's say the Hammond organ from IK Multimedia, I can load that. For me, I still like the built-in internal sources, and you can flag any of those as favorites. I like the electric piano. Let's use that. There's kind of 2 personalities to Scalar. One is as a theory tool, and I use that every day. It has a detect capability that will tell you the chords and the key of a given WAV file or MIDI file. It was one of the first features that attracted me to the product. There's a host of other utility uses that relate to the embedded music theory within Scalar. The other personality, and perhaps the more popular one, is coming up with chord progressions for composition of songs. In this area, Scalar offers thousands of predetermined chord progressions organized by genre, artist, mood, leveraging some of the best musicians that are out there in the business. It just makes for a great starting point when you're trying to come up with a chord progression. And it kind of eliminates the need for MIDI chord packs. Those capabilities have been greatly enhanced. Now you can create melodies, phrases, and bass lines all within Scalar. And Scalar delivers all of that at a pretty cost-effective price point. When building your chord progression, the suggest mode has improved. This pop-up defines by color chords that fit into the progression you're working with, the blue fitting most easily and the gray being a little bit outside the ordinary. The suggest mode will match by tone, by scale, or auto detect. You can turn these things off and on. After you've picked some chords that you like and an instrument that you like, click on this icon. You can adjust sound settings. You can drag those chords into your DAW with this arrow. Just solo this track. And in the past, I might have used my DAW to edit the MIDI. I might have shortened some of these notes. I might have even changed some of the chords. Another feature that is better organized than before is modifying the voices and the nature of the chords themselves. They've added that as something called colors. You get this pop-up. You can change chords to be sevenths, ninths, elevenths, suspended chords. Then you've got voicing variations. Some of these features were available in Scalar 2, but they were all in different places. Now it's all been put into one. You've got substitutions, chord inversions, much easier to manage. And it's all part of the beginning of your workflow where you're selecting the chords and the chord progression. Skipping from the browser page to the create page, Scalar has always reflected the circle of fifths. So if you're learning theory, this is a great tool. I can't remember that A minor is the relative minor to C major, but it's all built in here and you can click on this and use this to modify your chords or add harmonies. One of the features I like is this new way to compare different voicings. So we've got our chord progression from the B section, and we can listen to it with different voicings. And taking that one step further, they're delivering something here called a sketchpad. And in the sketchpad, you can have your chords. I can choose different motion options and compare them and listen to them. So for example, in progression 1, maybe I want to hear some articulations that are an arpeggio. And by the way, if you just click and hold the arpeggio in the browser, you get to hear what it sounds like. I'll choose that for the first one. For the second one, under expressions, I've got performance, phrases, rhythms. Let's look at phrases. Let's go with that one. And for the third progression, let's look at moods. I'm looking for something atmospheric. Now I can see all the modifications that I can make and I can listen to them. If you're wondering what that light bulb is at the end of each chord progression, that is the suggest mode. That used to be in a different place. Now you can click on the suggest mode in almost any location and it'll bring up options. Again, the options for the suggest mode are color coded. The blue ones most easily fit into the chord progression you've started. The light gray a little bit less and the dark gray even less. But that suggest the next chord feature is now somewhat ubiquitous in Scalar 3. Perhaps my most favorite improvement in Scalar 3 is the arrange page. And this is where you can pull everything together to compose your own song. I just love the idea that you can now do this all in Scalar. You don't have to do this in your DAW. So I've got one track with just a 4-chord progression and it's playing the felt piano. There's a bunch of changes that I can make here. Voice leading, octaves, in versions. I can make these changes in the arrange page. I don't have to go back to one of the other pages where I selected the chords. So let's add a track, and we could browse through motions. We'll look under expressions, bass, jazz bass, and we've got some patterns here. I like that one. So now I have a track called bass, and you can see it here in the mixer window, but it's assigned to felt piano. I'm going to change that assignment. Now these sounds could come from multiple places. There's internal sounds in Scalar. I know that IK Multimedia, great sounding bass. Let's hear it with the piano. So you can build out an entire composition right in Scalar. It has a lot of great features, like a MIDI editor. This just blows me away. You've got tools in the MIDI editor like cut, draw, you can modify velocities, you can add notes, you can humanize, you can quantize, you can add voice groupings, you can choose performance modes. Some of these existed in the previous version. They've just been consolidated all on this Motions tab. When I listened to that bass part again, I didn't like it that much. But what I noticed was some of the notes being played by that multimedia mono bass were too low. Couldn't really hear them. And the neat thing about this MIDI editor is that you get to see in light blue kind of a shadow of the chords that are being played below. So if you want to move these notes, you can move them into a position that's relative to the chords, and it's going to sound better. So knowing how track 1 relates to track 2 is a huge advantage when you're doing this kind of composition. Another thing you can do within the mixer is add effects. I can pick kind of standard effects that I really like. The Valhalla Space Modulator. I don't like it that much. Now I'm thinking I need a new track, which will be kind of a lead melody. I click on plus, look under expressions, and I see melody. And these appear in different colors. And on this melody track, I'm going to choose a different instrument other than the felt piano. I'm looking for kind of a synth lead and choose another expression. I think I like this one, but again, I want a different sound. And I'm not hearing those notes at the beginning. I think what I need to do is break up those notes. This can be a multi-track composition made up of melodies, bass parts, all the melodic lines that you need for your composition. The big enhancements I see in Scalar 3 is more DAW-like capabilities. You can add in a section called Motions, you can pick any instruments you want, and you can do things with ARPs and arpeggiators and other MIDI effects that you used to have to do in your DAW. My reaction is that Scalar is now on a higher echelon of MIDI generation that most of the competitors can't match. Lastly, a very important feature in Scalar is the ability to save your presets. That means all the configuration that you've done on the 3 pages and the songs that you've created, anything that you've modified can be saved. You're going to give it a unique name. Now in Scalar 3, you have a lot of presets from which to choose. There's my user preset, I can have favorites, I can look at all, but very important are these templates, of which there's a long list. And these templates are really a starter, and they're excellent. So let's open, say, you'll see Dreamy Synthwave has a chord progression, which you can modify and change. It's got some harmonic, colors, but most importantly, in the arrange window, you've got a 4-track example that's making use of patterns and phrases. You can learn a lot from it. For example, in the mixer, you can tell which instruments are being used. You can open the MIDI editor and examine the MIDI, and you'll notice some things like the resolution, the playing mode, and the melody. All of these templates are extremely useful, both if you're new to Scalar or if you're new to Scalar 3. If you found this video interesting and insightful, click on the like button. Consider subscribing to the channel. If you have comments or questions, add them in. I always answer them. And if you've decided you really need Scalar 3 or you really need to upgrade, there are affiliate links in the description if you want to either upgrade or buy Scalar 3. And I appreciate your support, so thanks for watching.